call the Finance, Insurance, and Personnel Committee meeting to order.
This is the end of the year.
Roll call.
You're here.
Cool here.
Wired here.
Tom is there. Approval of the meeting minutes from December 21st.
Wired will move to approve the minutes from the 21st.
Cool second.
I have a motion from Wired and a second from Cool to approve the meeting minutes from December 21st. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment. Anyone here to comment on an item
There is no
not on the agenda? There is no one. Old business, Parks purchase of radio equipment for vehicles, and he's gone. What happened to
He
him?
said he had to go to the park. He walked something at the park.
He was just here.
I know.
Yeah, he was.
Just sitting here.
You got a phone call or
He
something?
got something on his phone and said he had to go to the park.
Oh, good grief.
Quote
Well,
still
we'll
doesn't seem
just-
right.
What's that?
Well, the quote's not right, because that's for two
It's not-
radios.
it's not
I only
updated.
purchased one.
Yeah, it's
But
not
he-
updated.
But he already bought them.
No, he didn't.
He was buying one, I thought.
He didn't buy any. We haven't approved the purchase of any.
No, and Chad doesn't need, that's why it was miscommunication. It was supposed to, he thought Chad
All
needed
tabled.
one and
I
Parks. and-
will guarantee you he took it out of his budget and pulled this out, because he said he didn't need this to be on here anymore. Because Chad didn't need one,
Yep,
We just need a mic.
he just, right,
Yeah.
and Gabe only needed one radio, and he says, because he wanted to take this out of contingency, and then he just looked at his budget, he goes, you know what, I'll just take it out of my budget now, and I'll just make it work. Like, he's not adding to it. So I told him that this should be off, but he obviously didn't get a hold
Did
of
we get a bill
you
from
or
no,
you.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
You got a bill from Gen Con?
I haven't paid a bill from,
Probably not yet.
because it probably isn't in yet. He only just talked about this like a week ago, maybe?
yeah, I haven't got, I
In
haven't
between
seen
the
it.
holidays, because he was gone through the whole last week of December. So I told him, if you're gonna do it out of your budget and move your own numbers around, because you can do that, then just do it in January, so just take it out of your budget, so it's not going to be out of contingency. So basically, this is canceled. We can still get the information from
I'm
him.
going to, I guess until we know for sure that it's been canceled, you want to table it, or just take no action and eliminate it entirely?
I would eliminate it entirely.
Probably take no
If
action.
it needs to come back on, it'll have to come back on.
Re-enter it, yep.
Okay,
It's just as easy as taking it. Easier.
so we're going to take no action on the parks purchase of radio equipment. You could have opened that, but that's okay. New business, financial statements. Can take it all as one.
Cool motion to accept the December financial statements.
Wired will second.
I have a motion from Cool, second from Wired to approve or recommend the council approval of the financial statements. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. B, funding for parks vehicles. This is, I got an email from Gabe wanting about funding for the car. When we developed the budget, we did put funding for that vehicle in City Hall. And that's just so we had a placeholder for it. And it was $1,500. And it seems that the primary user obviously is Gabe, it's the Parks Department. So I would like to do a budget amendment and move the money that we have budgeted in City Hall over to the Parks Department. I believe that's $1,500, isn't that what you thought it was, Lana?
Yep,
Okay. We're also gonna have to create an account for, do we need one for repairs and maintenance other than gas and oil?
Is that what the 1,500 was intended to
Yeah.
be, it's just gas and oil?
Gas and oil, yeah.
I mean, I mean, in my opinion, just leave one line item for that,
For
and
that
then we
vehicle.
can do activity codes like I'm doing with the
Right.
other ones, and one for gas and one for repairs. It's not gonna be that much,
Right.
so unless you see differently
So,
than
well,
that.
I have no problem with it being all one account.
Yeah.
How would you like that? I'll let you determine.
Yep.
Well, how you want
Yep.
it identified?
Yeah, I think, just leave it like that.
You had some
for
question
this.
on the vehicle, Charlie? at all, usage?
We need some rules for it, for sure, like where should it be parked, when is it used, how does the city hall
Right.
use it, yada, yada.
I don't know if there's a policy already for use of public vehicles or.
That's what I said to him when I.
We don't have a policy currently, Charlie, because the police department's the only one that had vehicles. I take that back, Public Works has vehicles.
Mhm.
But
And so does the
they're,
fire department.
they don't take their vehicles home, all their vehicles are stored here. Fire departments are stored at the fire department.
Yeah, the maroon car, where do they park that? Do they park that inside somewhere? I never
What's
seen it
that?
sitting outside. The maroon SUV,
It's parked inside.
It-
Yeah, it's
inside one of the
inside.
garages? That's
Yeah.
the, so what we don't have here is a garage. We don't have any place to put it,
Right.
per se, you know?
Indifferent, I guess.
We can be parked in the parking lot behind City Hall. We've got
Spots.
spots that are reserved for City Hall use only employees.
Yeah, if he wants to come down here to get it and then drop it off, you know.
In general, people drive to work, Chad drives to work, gets in a city vehicle, he doesn't take the city vehicle home and stuff.
Right.
And if something were to happen to it
Yeah.
at his house,
I
I
would
would think it
think-
would be here.
I would think that's gonna continue to happen, but,
Not if we create a policy.
no, that the vehicle resides at city
Oh,
property.
yeah, right, that's where it should be.
Right. It's not treated as a personal vehicle,
Right,
for lack of better terms, but.
right.
So what are your thoughts? Do we want to develop a policy, go out and look what other policies are, just tell them the vehicle?
Lana can call on insurance, just to be clear.
I mean, we really need to.
Sure. And it would be.
Yeah.
And
Some ideas, I'm sure there's some.
And like
pretty
Tim was
easy ones
saying,
out
is
there,
that,
but-
like
Right.
today, I took my vehicle to Jefferson to pay the taxes. So I'm using my vehicle for that. He's like, whose insurance would that be? Would it be, I'm on company use time? Or, and that's a good valid point, we need to correct.
It is.
and
it
we
is
need
a
to
point,
clarify that,
and
yeah.
you should
That came up
probably-
at the police department, Dennis. Do
But-
you remember what
But that, the problem,
It fell back on the owner of the vehicle.
That's
and
what
I would
recall.
assume that that's what it would be. But,
Because we had an officer that had an accident go into something when they were working, and the insurance company said that it had to fall under their insurance.
Yeah, they
First
were
and
going
then
to
ours,
court.
and that
Yeah.
sounds familiar, because that's part of the conversation we had with Gabe's Tire. And then what would happen if he had an accident
I only.
on company time in
Right.
his vehicle?
And that's the thing, is
But my concern.
what's the agreement with the employee that it's their responsibility?
Right.
If they take their personal vehicle, then, you know, the liability is on them first.
Well, I think you gotta make them aware of that, A, and
Correct.
B,
Well,
that, and B, I think insurance on your own vehicle, if you're gonna use your own vehicle, should be part of the mileage reimbursement that you get for
The
it.
assumption is they have insurance.
True.
Well, they should
They're
provide
required by
proof
law
if
to
they're
have
doing,
insurance.
but.
But they're not
Doesn't mean they
required.
have it,
You're
They're
required
not
by law
required
not
to
to drink
show.
and drive too, that never happens.
Right.
though, or speed.
Or speed, blow a stop sign, illegal U-turns,
Come on, we're
You know
trying
what I
to be
mean?
positive, okay?
just saying.
I mean,
Or, yeah. Or like Lana brought up
I
before,
would
do we
think
give
you
them
would
a?
wanna encompass something along
Mhm.
those lines, whether it's a, you know, something in the manual or something that the responsibility is.
I mean, there are gonna
Trying to
be
declare,
instances
but-
where they are required to drive their own vehicle just because other vehicles are not available.
Right,
And that's what happened with officers taking their personal vehicles to court. They had to be in court.
Right.
There wasn't another vehicle available.
They have
Their
to take
personal
it.
vehicle was the only
Yep.
thing that was.
But as long as they know that if something should happen, where the liability resides, and I don't know if that is something R&R would maybe wanna,
right.
And I'll talk to him about it.
maybe wanna chime in and see as far as liability goes.
What his
how
thoughts are on
that's-
that.
What's
Right.
the
Okay.
thoughts, what
Right.
other municipalities do.
Right. Lana suggested too, or perhaps we give Gabe an allowance, because he was never charging gas, oil, I mean, his own vehicle for all the
And
driving
then we get rid
around
of
he
it.
did. I don't
That's
know
on
if he-
Gabe.
That's
We
on Gabe.
offered, We
I
gave,
don't, right,
I
so
drive my
I'm just saying
personal
let's,
vehicle at work sometimes, and it's on me, because in general, there's always supposed to be an arrangement made to get a company vehicle. It could be the same here. You know, if she had to go to Jefferson, she would get a hold of Gabe and say, I need the vehicle for X amount of time.
And that's the only difficulty. If he's doing something at this point, I had to get there
It
at a
is.
certain time, so I couldn't even have the opportunity to
Right.
get a hold of him to get the vehicle because he wasn't here and the vehicle wasn't here, so.
it's really kind of getting a calendar together too, just really quite simple. You know, where's the vehicle gonna be? Just if you know on
Yeah.
Tuesday, you're gonna be gone, you're just gonna put it in there that I need the vehicle on Tuesday. Because if you think about it, for the most part, if Gabe is coming from home to go to the park to clean or do whatever, that's going to your job. He doesn't need the company vehicle to do that. You don't get paid to go from your house to come here.
Well, but he runs back and forth between the places.
Correct, so it makes a difference what he's doing, if he's gotta go out of town and get stuff, if he's doing different things. On a weekend, if he's got weddings, he's gonna be there Friday night, he's gonna be there Saturday, he's gonna be there on Sunday. Keep the car. You guys aren't gonna need it anyway. So just coming up with some basic rules so everybody knows where it is, and understanding the insurance is huge. What the
I don't see
liability
City
is.
Hall needing the vehicle that often. So
No,
it's-
we don't, that's why I said it's really that simple of letting Gabe know this is the date that we're gonna be gone.
I would say that most people at City Hall would rather,
Drive your own vehicle.
And I'm
it's not,
fine with driving
it's
my
not a
own.
vehicle I would
We
like to drive.
pay them mileage at the
Yep.
federal,
would
which
add within
which
the
covers,
cost.
But you should.
I know, I forget.
I mean, that'll cover gas, it covers insurance, it
Yep.
covers maintenance.
Yep.
Because it's not just, yeah, it's at the federal rate, and that's what it's supposed to cover.
Right.
Yep, completely agree. Insurance is kind of the only real sticking point,
Yeah.
but
I'll call Paul.
Yeah, I started this conversation with
Takes a
Paul
little
2 years
research.
ago, and he never really did get back to me.
Yeah.
And then I had Mike on it, and he never really got back to Mike either, so now it's on you.
Oh, he'll get back to me.
Alrighty then.
Well, we can sell you a policy.
Yep.
See, that's the thing, he always gets back to me, so I
I don't know.
maybe I
But see,
scare him.
because the fire department has the exact same situation. They have a company vehicle that should reside there at the fire department. So when they come in to work, then they pick it up and take it and do whatever. This question covers both areas. It's the same scenario.
So bottom line, need to check
In
on
your
it, and then
policy.
get a policy together,
Yep.
and that
Yeah.
we have it, if it
Right,
has to be
and
a
if
little
they get
different
into
for one
an
or the
accident,
other.
what happens? If
Yes.
it's their vehicle or our vehicle, what's
You
the
have to
rules?
decide, yep, all right.
I think the fire department's policy is it has to be approved by the chief, which is overseeing that, so I don't know if it needs to be to that realm, but,
Mhm.
I mean, I'd like to see examples, I guess,
Mhm.
rather than trying to just come up
I
with
can do
something.
that,
Right.
I can research
Okay.
on examples for others as well.
And if there's not much out there, and because it's not really an issue, then, okay.
I'm sure insurance will have something to say about it.
or at least advice.
Absolutely.
Well, this is a short meeting.
Well, it's gotta be, I mean, because state patrol, they take their squads home. There are a lot of departments where the chief has a squad to take home a vehicle. So there's gotta be policies or information like that. I
Yeah,
think Dodge County, their deputies take home vehicles.
but I can just see the question rising, and I'm not trying to pick on Gabe at all, but I mean, I can see the question rising, well, I have to be back down there in 6 hours or something like that, I'm just taking it home and then responding back from there.
That's not what's been happening.
Right, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see that the clarification needed to be a little bit put down, so there's some expectations, I guess.
Okay, very good.
Only thing I have is seeing the December reports are posted online now for finance. If the department hasn't looked through their respective expenditures and budget items and do comparisons, so.
Can you get on that yet, Dennis?
Where they left off.
When did you get on it?
We're approving it, we just approved it, so through the December
Oh, okay.
31st, it posted
Right.
online.
Okay.
That's online. That's not on my view.
Yeah, it's online.
But I give them their department total, so.
You still have not got your
But
budget
it's not
for
100% done
24,
because we
correct?
still have invoices
For
coming
December,
in.
yeah.
So it's a
But I
preliminary.
would-
Not off of my, you know,
Right, my view doesn't have it.
Yeah,
is it ever gonna have it?
there might be some, I was just looking at the December, it was through December 31st.
31st.
Obviously, there's gonna be some
There's
bills
already
maybe
been some.
trickling in here that are gonna reside back in last year's.
I think some of that has to
Budgets,
wait
but-
until after the audit, so that she can close the books before she can,
Show you where you ended up, is that what we're getting at?
Yeah, I've been doing.
if I remember
keep ahead
correctly,
of
that's
all
gotta be
that,
done
so-
before it gets,
You might be in
What
the
are,
middle
what are
of
we gonna
February.
do ultimately with my view? Is that gonna be opened up 24/7, 365, or is that just? gonna
It should be,
open-
that was the
It's always-
point.
I think there was some issues where it kept, I think it's fixed now, but yeah, it's
can the
there all
department
summer.
heads get into it?
I would think you can't, you're saying
Once
you
we
can't?
close out of it, we can't get back into it.
Budget,
Why doesn't
you
make any
can't
sense?
change their budget.
You can't
No,
view
they
it?
can't even get into it
Well,
to
they
see
can't
what
view
we
it.
see.
Oh, I'll talk to them about
Yeah,
that.
that's not right.
They never had that ability.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought you could, once it goes through the steps, you, after
No, once
department,
we,
the first
once we
step.
submit it, we're done.
You can't even, I thought you could at least view it, you just
Well,
couldn't
right,
unless
that's what
I
I was trying
rejected
to
it.
look
No,
forward
they've
to.
never been
It'd be
able.
nice to be able to have them be able to look at
Oh,
previous
absolutely.
budgets and see
Yeah.
what expenditures on, but.
So for our
Absolutely.
department meeting that you got coming up,
Yeah,
get all those answers to make sure that everybody can get in. And if we have to run through a scenario or a training thing with my view, that can be maybe our
I
first
mean,
meeting
to
there
go
in
through
February.
a fine tooth comb, but.
They've,
it was
they've never
like-
been given that, it's never been turned on in the program for them
Yeah.
to see.
I was just thinking, you know,
hopefully it's a simple
Right.
setting that they
I
can
didn't
just
know they
go
could
in.
either, right.
I didn't know that. I
revenue
assumed you
versus
just couldn't.
expenditures on different things, because they're gonna look at it and say, well, I'm over on this, but I know I was under on this,
And I think
and be
part,
able to explain it if needed, you know.
I think part of the reason was is what we have, we can actually go in and change things.
We shouldn't be able to change anything, once the
Well,
budget's been done.
unfortunately, well, we can.
I can, but just because I was combining those accounts.
That's why we
That's-
never
but-
approve those when we get the budgets.
He could-
Right,
We never approve those, because once
It's a
we
good
do that,
thing.
we close it
Done.
out on everybody.
right.
Yeah, I just delete those.
We should have a my view little meeting to make
I'm
sure
getting
everybody
into that one.
understands that.
Okay, like,
Because, yes, because we
training.
don't hit approve,
Right.
Right,
but we get all the emails every time somebody goes in and does something. We
Yep.
get all these emails and Mike always says, I'll just delete it. Well, you know, let's just figure out, make that stop.
And I don't think, I think that's from the
Well,
program.
we gotta find out.
I'll
turn
talk
off
to
the
them on
notification
that.
probably or something.
Yeah, it would be just nice, you know, at the end
You
of a
should be
budget
an
year.
admin year
obviously
round,
there's gonna be
everybody else
carryovers,
should
but
be,
If there
once
was
the budget's
notes in
been
there why the
approved, we should
carryovers
be able to
actually
update.
happened, you know.
Right.
and I don't know how you do that.
I
Well,
was just
they
looking at
can't.
Parks expenditures are
They
way
can't, but
over
we can get in there.
revenues, but he had
See, and
grant
I
money that
have to
came
hit,
in
Yeah.
I think the
for.
problem is I
Oh,
have to
that's why you
approve,
ruled.
so
And,
it gets
and
passed
it would be
through.
nice to have
Okay.
the notes in there, so
I'll
next year
Yeah, we
we're
gotta-
looking at
I'm
it
still
some
learning
rules
that
on that.
system.
7 or 8 months from now, when
It's
you
not
look
my
at it, it's like,
favorite,
oh,
but-
that's why.
We had nothing
I was looking at the same thing, I'm
before.
going, how could this be
And then
and still have
work
it?
with Casell.
And then I got looking at the
No, and
grants
I
and
know
you
it's-
gotta,
it's
So-
gotta
just
look
a
at
little
all
finicky.
funds.
Seems like some of that was
Right.
timing too, of when the city paid that, but.
Yeah.
Some of it
Yeah,
was.
some of it's when it got paid.
The more notes, the better, you know, if there's time for them to do that, you know.
This
So
one,
they're gonna look at their budget and know exactly what happened for the most part, so
Yep.
they can write notes somehow and get those in there, so we're looking at it later, or the public's looking at it later, they have some idea.
You don't have to rely on memory, you just read it.
Correct. Reminder, we have a meeting on the 24th with the fire department. That's to go over their
Policies and procedures.
policies and procedures.
Bylaws.
and the
Dave is on
bylaws.
his way back in case you're wondering,
Okay, that's fine.
but he just got some.
Did-
Check and make sure I put it in the calendar.
Yeah, I know I did, I looked.
Okay, well, I just, that's why I'm reminding everybody. Just-
Yeah.
Did we hear anything from the interview, or as far
I've
as
not heard
announcements
anything
going,
from the
we're
interview
still
yet.
keeping that open?
Uh,
It's at what time?
Is it
Six.
five or
Six, if I
Is it
remember
six?
correctly.
Five's real hard for Richard.
Yes, it is.
It might have been six.
I think it's six. It's 5:30 or 6.
6 to 7.
6 to 7?
That's what I have down.
Okay. So, there's that. I sent out an email last night about the modified department head review forms that I received from Laura Cotting.
It's the same form.
It's the same form.
It's the same form, I got it too.
Okay,
I already
where
had
they
it.
modified it is their department head only fills out page 1. And then the review committee fills out
The rest.
the rest of it, which only makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they should not be filling out any more than the first page.
Yeah, so it's the same document.
Okay.
So I'd like to send that out and just have them fill out the first page.
That's fine.
And we're looking at February. When's a good time?
14th.
Let me consult my Google Docs.
February 14th, huh? Okay, yeah. Valentine's Day. You want a gift, huh, Dennis?
Sure.
Okay.
14th is a Wednesday.
Are we
Yeah.
gonna try and do it on a normal Thursday night?
Well, we can, which would be, the first would be
The first and the 15th?
the 8th or the 22nd.
Not on,
So
not
that's
on
the
a budget.
opposites.
Right, not on,
No, because
Council night.
you want to do them all at once. That's what the discussion, and that's going to be a very long day.
The week before the 15th?
yeah, just split it up into two.
I would think doing it in 2, the 8th and the 22nd makes the most sense. Personally, I don't think we can do it in one night, I really don't.
No, and I'm fine doing it in two. I would rather do it on a night that they're already here, first or the
27th.
15th.
27th is the 22nd is problematic.
Okay, so the 22nd is out for you, okay.
22nd.
We'll probably get some windshield time heading north of us.
I don't mind it, you can, like you
It's just
can.
that all those Thursdays in February are usually when we leave to go
Uh-huh.
up north.
Yep. I,
But
I
we
get-
don't have Tuesdays.
I could do a Wednesday.
How about, you're not good on Tuesday, right?
Not really. That's hit or miss because but I roll full in rotation, so.
I mean,
Wednesday, okay?
Wednesdays would work better for me too.
Okay, so if we get those sent out next week,
Can
Yeah,
I,
then
I'm
back.
sorry, I was just distracted, what days are you?
We're still battling.
Still
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
we're just babbling right now.
Okay.
Like 7th and the 21st, is that what you're thinking?
That'll work for me.
7, 21st, no, 21st I got a meeting in Middleton.
How
Well,
about the 7th and the 15th then? Can we finish it up on, do most of it on the 7th and then finish it on a regular?
yes,
meeting on the 15th?
we'll do that. We'll make sure we got it like.
I can start probably 5:30 if that's helpful.
Why don't we do the 7th and the 15th?
Okay, that works for me.
And we'll just have to set a time limit and
Correct.
and hit it.
Yes.
Divide it by the number, the
Get
time
as
by the
many as
number
we
of people
can
we
on the
have.
7th and just finish up on the 15th. Sounds good.
Perfect.
So the 15th though is normal,
That's normal night, yes.
So you
Right,
wanna do
right.
5:30 on the 7th?
where am I?
We can do that.
5:30 on the 15th?
Feb 7.
I'll just put a long meeting.
And
I
then
don't know if that'll.
Well, because finance, we normally start at 6:30.
6.
6.
Well, 6 or 6:30, yeah,
Yeah,
depends what it
normally
is.
6. So if we start at 5:30 on the 15th,
But I thought the 7th.
both, 7th and the
And the
15th.
15th, all right.
Yeah,
Because we're definitely gonna finish it up on the 15th, and that way we don't have to have another.
and we can
special meeting.
go into our normal meeting.
We'll do our normal, yeah.
We'll call it the regular meeting at 5:30 and then just go till 7.
Yep,
Yeah.
And we'll just have to be expedient through the regular meeting too,
Yeah.
if at all possible.
Yeah,
I can't see us
Yep.
having a whole lot there.
It's early in the year.
yep,
Yeah, it is.
All
Okay.
right, I'll enter them in the calendar.
You have that, Jeannie?
Okay, so we're talking the 7th and the 15th at 5:30.
5:30.
And Gabe needs to be on the 7th, he just said, because he has a game on the 15th.
That's fine.
You guys can work that out internally.
How many do you want? You want me just to split the group in half? Is
I
that
will
what you-
get, no, I'm gonna try and get as many as I can on the 7th. I'll get together with you.
Okay, that's fine,
Before
okay.
we publish it, but the 15th will be a normal finance, starting at 5:30.
Just
So
an early start.
It's just that we'll, do reviews first, early start.
Okay.
Right.
So I wanna have maybe 2 or 3 at the max for the
How many are
On
there?
the 15th, more on the
There's gotta be
7th.
6, 8. Gabe, Dennis, Lana,
Chad.
Jeannie, Chad,
Leslie?
no,
Yeah.
Wes, so there's at least 6. Am I missing somebody?
We don't do library.
No?
No,
Do you, Ron?
DP,
We
no,
don't do
we don't do
utility.
Ron. We don't do utilities.
So there's what, 6?
Commissions that take care of
Six.
those.
Mhm.
So if we do 4 and 2, we should be pretty good, right?
Well, if you're giving everybody 15, 20 minutes, you could do them all in one night. It's really up to you.
Well, I'm
I
gonna
don't
be
know that
gone
we
on
can
the
do 'em in
7th, so I
Yeah,
have to
so
do,
do it,
I have to
yeah.
do the 15th.
And
I
Gabe
don't
for
know
sure
that we
wants
can
the
do
7th.
it in
That's fine.
15 minutes.
Okay.
It's a nice number to hit, but I just don't think it's possible.
Well, Gabe for sure wants to be on the 7th,
Good to have
Lana
you.
wants to be on the
the
15th.
15th.
Okay,
Fair enough.
So
Jeannie's okay on both.
You guys just let me know, I'll get
Alright.
it done.
Figure it out.
Whenever
let us
you
know.
have time, Tim, we'll go over it.
Okay.
We got time to post it.
very good.
February, department heads and then audit rep.
And you hang on so you can finish.
Yep.
Okay, Sid. Boy.
Yeah, I'm working on the prep right now.
Okay. That's just on the calendar.
What's on the calendar?
Audit prep.
Audit
Oh, yeah,
I've
yeah.
been working on that since last month.
Department
so-
head reviews.
Yep, okay.
Charlie?
No, just let him finish telling us on A,
Yeah,
in his words, so it's not my words.
I just have no way to communicate with anybody.
No. What did you decide to do? You don't want it out of contingency? You
No,
wanna talk-
like, I only wanted on a contingency if we were gonna order it last year, cause
Right.
my budget is done, like.
Right,
But now that we're in a new year, I'll just put it under maintenance,
Yeah.
since we don't have an actual car fund, I'll just take it out of the maintenance budget.
well, we're giving
Or
you
supply.
our fund. We're moving it from city hall to you.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then I'll just take it out of there. I need something, I don't,
Yeah.
cause otherwise, just to quickly call, like if I need the PD, like I have to try calling on cell phone and, cause even in the park, the handheld, nothing against the handhelds, but they're not very good. And if I'm in Fireman's Park, nobody can ever hear me.
Okay. So we're removing it, we're not putting it back on finance, and you're taking care of it out of your budget?
Yeah,
Okay, which is
Yeah.
what I told him.
Glad you spent all that money on communications.
What communications are we talking about?
All communications, I've heard.
That's
We
not very
spent all
good.
that
ARPA money.
ARPA money on communications, and I heard we still have issues with the radio systems.
yeah, they're not, the handhelds, like, Dennis gave us the extra handhelds.
the city portables we're never gonna cover.
Right, I understand that.
Those aren't hitting any repeaters anyways,
Yeah.
Okay,
unlike the
so it is
portables.
a done topic.
The fire department portable and the police department portables are hitting the repeater of them.
Yeah,
Aren't those, because I heard some issues there yet.
Okay, that I haven't heard. And I'm not gonna doubt that probably are.
Right?
They guarantee you great things and it never worked out that way,
Yes.
never did.
For sure.
Terrible ball player.
Okay, so that doesn't, because this is also on the council agenda, we don't have to approve the purchase of the radio, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's a done deal. It's off.
Okay, so we don't have to deal with it on council. 'cause it
No.
isn't-
yeah, I had only put it on there because it was on
Contingency
before the
23.
end of last year.
Okay.
And I,
Very
It does
good.
not need contingency.
yeah,
Do we have to do something with the move, though?
That we're gonna have to do a budget amendment. But we don't have a budget amendment
Let
before
them
us.
put that on
Okay.
next time.
But we will have to do that,
We will
yes.
have to do
That you already motioned, gas on and all that stuff.
Yes. So that'll have to go to council for approval. I mean, we did it here, so we need to do it, but
Okay.
we need the actual wording. It's a resolution.
Yep.
Nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn.
Wire goes second.
Have a motion from Cool, second from Wire to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Accomplished was made board meeting.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Cummings here.
Austin Cool here.
Charles Coles here.
Griffin here. Thomas here.
Wire here.
Gang is all here. Meeting minutes approval of January 4th. Are there any additions or corrections?
Austin Cole make a motion to approve meeting minutes from January 4th, 2024.
Griffin, second.
Motion by Austin Cool, second by Griffin to approve the meeting minutes of January 4th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Citizen input, are you here for anything on the agenda? Okay. Reports and presentation, Detective Dan Horvath?
Horvath, yep.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
I will get this up and running. Hopefully, you can dim maybe one bank of lights so you guys are able to see a little better.
Maybe I should.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, my name is Dan Horvath, Detective Sergeant in charge of the Jefferson County Drug Task Force. So I've been there running the task force for the last 4.5 years. Been with the Sheriff's Department, this is my 23rd year. So I started in the jail, worked the courthouse, patrol. I was a detective for 6 years prior to running the task force. So that's a little bit about my background. Part of the reason I'm kind of doing this all around the county is to talk a little bit about task force. Most of what we do is very confidential, so you don't get to see what we do, but you guys are members of the task force, along with the other agencies listed up here. And so I want to make sure you guys understand that we're actually doing something. So what you're going to see, and so if you have questions about the task force, you can actually ask me, because, again, because of the nature of what we do, a lot of it is more confidential. So, so as we go through, if you do have a question, feel free to stop me as we go. And I'll kind of talk about the agency agreement, and then I'll show you some of our cases, and you'll see kind of where we've been going. So I picked cases from all over the county, so you'll see Waterloo case, but you'll also see Palmyra, Lake Mills, and some other cases as well. So the whole purpose of what we're doing is really targeting dealers. I know there's a misnomer that sometimes we're going after just people who smoke a little bit of weed, which is just not true, right? So we're really going after dealers, and then we also do presentations which are designed to educate public, we'll educate fire personnel, just kind of what you can see, probation and parole, human services, in order so that when they go out in the field and do different things, if they're responding to a suspected overdose, okay, if they see X number of things, they know what to be looking for. Same thing with probation and parole personnel. So steering committee oversees the operations of the task force on a quarterly basis. Chief Sorensen is one of the chiefs that are part of that steering committee. And going over all of the current operations, any sort of budgetary issues or requests for money that we need from our seizure or asset forfeiture money gets approved by the steering committee. So I run the day-to-day operations of the task force, and part of the agreement covers our responsibilities, steering committee responsibilities, property that's seized, what actually happens to that, how it's dealt with, and then the membership's participation and what duties they have, which includes a monetary contribution and an hourly requirement. So, so for example, up here, village, there's my Waterloo one. There it is. Waterloo is 250 hours, and that's what it's equivalent to what the part-time wage is to have someone. They sum up to what would be an extra person based on all of the municipalities' contributions. So unfortunately, one of the challenges for us is that most of the other agencies that officers that we had part-time also work full-time for another agency, and so a lot of the officers were short and just not available for things because they're filling shifts at their full-time job. So with that, one of the things that then it causes is all of the full-time people to have to work a lot more. And so when you get the bill that kind of covers some of the overtime costs that were incurred, it's because we couldn't get part-time officers to be able to do that. So this past year, they settled the contract, the deputies settled their contract, which includes the part-time wage, and that was done in the middle of the year. So previously it was about $20 an hour is what our part-timers were getting paid. Now it's been bumped up to like $30 an hour, which of course creates a lot of problems for, you know, smaller municipalities that are contributing because you've already set your budget for this year, right? And so this happened way after that point. So one of the things I discussed with all the chiefs is we won't, whatever that total is, the $20.60 or something, you know, and then multiplying times the hourly requirement. For this year, for sure, that won't go up because we obviously can't expect you to foot that bill when we, you know, you guys already set your budgets in place. So one of the things we're exploring with this agreement, because some other agencies have also had the question, you know, we wait till almost the end of the year before we actually give you guys a bill, and then a lot of times everybody thinks, well, we're trying to bill quarterly for the part-time hours, but as we start getting later in the year, people see the money that's just sitting there and they think, oh, well, we can use this for something else. And so it creates a difficulty and a problem. So we're exploring the idea of billing up front so that you guys then, it's paid for, and then we take the money that we need out of that throughout the year, and if you have hours left over, then we give you a refund, so to speak, at the end of the year. So it creates less of a problem and a financial hardship. So it's still something that we have to talk about, which will be at our next quarterly meeting for the year. But that's kind of what I would like to do if we can get there, just because it's a lot easier on the municipalities as well. And it's a contribution to supporting the task force, and then we can give money back that's unused at the end of the year. And it's easier for our bookkeeper too to just give a refund than it is to constantly be sending invoices. And it is for me as well, because we have to, me and my secretary have to go through, and so it gets to be a lot. So some of the things about the task force, as far as generating cases, we take information from multiple sources. Officers, citizens might be calling, reporting to the police department, strange activity, their neighbors might be having short-term activity, something really weird's going on, people are coming in, going all hours of the night, right? So what we say about this is, hey, you might not know what this is. You don't have to definitively say, okay, this is a drug dealer that's living next to me, right? So, but rather, we say, well, provide us that information, because that might be the piece of the puzzle that we're missing to actually go further in our investigation. So No information, piece of information is too small. And so little bits build to something bigger. So once we get that information, then we decide what we're going to do. And there's lots of avenues of where we're going and how to pursue the investigation. So a lot of that is also determined on what we're talking about as far as drugs. Is there children involved, weapons, people? We make those determinations, right? And, you know, unfortunately, like, you know, if it's a marijuana type situation, doesn't mean we don't want that information, but if we just chased wheat marijuana, like, we would be chasing ourselves, chasing our tails, so to speak, because it's just everywhere, right? All the states around us have pretty much legalized, so you get so much influx from that. So it is a problem, and we'll talk about that in just a second as to why it's a problem. But our main focus is not just busting potheads, right? So some of the other things that we're involved in are saturation patrols, so drug interdiction operations. We've done a lot of overdose investigations, unfortunately, several in Waterloo, and those are very time intensive. Sometimes we solve them, a lot of times we don't, because the people that end up overdosing are very secretive, and a lot of times we don't get access to the information, specifically in their cell phones, that we need to be able to go further in those investigations. But also fugitive apprehension. I don't normally dress like this when we work, and my team doesn't either. We kind of look like dirtbags when we're out and about. And everybody will tell you, like, you're a cop, believe it or not, right? So because of that, we can do things a lot differently, and we can arrest people, you know, more efficiently. I mean, we can pretty much get within arm's reach of them. They don't know we're a cop, and then we can identify ourselves and take them into custody without incident. We've done that on a number of different cases, child sex assault suspects who we figured were gonna fight and would run had we not done that. So other investigations that we're involved in, homicide, child porn, property crimes, fleeing, operating under the influence, all of those things, because of the nature of the team that I've got working with me, can take unique approaches to actually solve these problems. So. Addiction in your brain. The real thing that I think is really important for all of us to know and everybody to understand as the legislature is contemplating a medical marijuana statute or program is that we really need to just understand that most children, their brain's not fully formed until the frontal lobe specifically till they're between 23 and 25 years old. And where that applies to that medical marijuana is the trickle-down effect, right? And we see that a little bit now with the cannabis products that seem to be all over. How bad or how much are we affecting these children as they're developing? Because it's always making its way into the high schools, which is a challenge. Something else just to mention about addiction, as we look at this slide and you see kind of the no drug use, the brain scans, where you have no drug use, and then with a cocaine addiction, 10 days without cocaine and 100 days without cocaine. You see the brain that's healthy, that has a lot of activity, the yellow and the red indicate brain activity. As we move to the right, you see 10 days without cocaine in that particular image. The brain is just getting a little bit back. And finally, after we get to about 100 days, we start to actually see the brain repairing itself, where now, okay, we're in a situation where the people that are addicted start to actually think a lot more clearly. And so as we talk about any sort of treatment, there has to be a component where we talk about, we really need to keep these people kind of out of the cocaine for about that time period before, out of the drugs. Before they actually can make good decisions. Because that's always what we see, right? People go to jail for a little bit, they get out and they're right back at it. And it's because we have not taken that time that we need to really to get them fully detoxed. So just something to be aware of, so that you're aware of that as if you have the opportunity to talk about treatment for these offenders. So I mentioned in the beginning that normally we don't target users. This is one case that we will, and that's for drug endangered children. And that's because parents, and we've had this multiple times, that are either selling drugs with their kids present, or they're using drugs with their kids present, and kids will end up getting a hold of their drugs, specifically infants. I'll talk about a case here in a minute, overdosing and then bad situation, right? We've had several kids that died from it. This was a case not too long ago, just a more recent one, but we've had others. So a mother calls 911 because her kid's not breathing, 18-month-old. So child's transported to the Watertown Hospital. They thought initially it was a seizure. Well, it's not a seizure. Nothing the doctor's doing is working. So the doctor decides, let's just to make sure, let's give the kid naloxone, Narcan, which binds to the opiate receptors in the brain, and the kid becomes responsive. So with that information, task force does a search warrant at the house. We knew the parents were prior users. The father then admits that he had relapsed approximately a week prior. There were some drugs and paraphernalia found, some fentanyl, a scale tested positive for fentanyl at the residence. And so the father was charged with a reckless endangerment of the kid, because obviously the 18-month-old was crawling around, got into a bag or something that dad had laying around after using, and overdosed. And just to kind of give you the lay of the land, this was in Hebron, this was a drug grow. This particular guy was going for a long amount of time. He actually ended up dying in his driveway, had a heart attack. But there were guns strategically positioned all around his house, and he was gonna go down in a blaze of glory, we think. But, and then just a campground, they're growing weed. Obviously, we have cocaine, this is crack, heroin. This, just an example of some track marks, but people don't just inject heroin, they inject meth and they inject cocaine as well, so. A lot of what we're seeing also are what's called the M30 pills. Those are the blue pills on the left. They're counterfeit Percocets. So people that might be thinking they're taking a Percocet, buying a Percocet, these actually contain fentanyl, and many people die from that. This is methamphetamine, about 3 ounces in this particular bus that we had with this person. If you ever go into your gas station and you see this and you wondered, what's this I love you rose, that's actually a meth pipe. So they sell them right at the gas station. It's called a bubble, and they're right at the checkout usually. So there's mushrooms, LSD, and this is just another example of gel tabs for LSD. So some of our seizures, this is kind of a chart, but what you'll really see as we go further in the presentation, you'll get an idea of what the weights and quantities that we've really seized. So. Overdose death statistics. In 2022, there were about 22 overdose deaths. We don't have the numbers tabulated yet for 2023, but it's somewhere between 16 and 20. So still pretty consistent. So, and a lot of times what we're seeing is a multiple drugs that are involved in the overdose death. So people might be thinking they're taking cocaine, and then it's laced with fentanyl, and that's what ends up killing them. So, so this is just something else to be aware of as we again talk about the medical marijuana thing that's going on. So one study showed an increase, 24% increase in psychosis in Colorado in the 5 years since legalization. So 1 in 4 chance of from heavy marijuana use. Increase of schizophrenia. So, so is it really harmless? Heavy weed users, you're gonna see that. Traditionally, we thought that was usually because of methamphetamine use, people going through and getting that bizarre psychotic behavior. But they found that this is out where there's legalization. It's actually out from heavy marijuana use as well. Something else that we're seeing is kids getting the edibles, right? Everything looks like a gummy bear or gummy candy, and they start consuming them. We've had that happen several times around here. They get into mom or dad's stash thinking it's candy, eat it, and then they're going to the hospital, so. So this is kind of one of the first warrants that we did when I took over the task force, so this is a Watertown one. But as we go through this, you'll kind of see, we're getting a lot of outside traffic, people from outside Jefferson County that come in and take up residence. The perception being that we don't have a lot of cops, and so they can do what they want pretty freely, and also they get paid more. So in the bigger cities, they don't make as much money on what they're selling, or they get more money for what they're selling out here. So in this particular case, this guy was a gang member, kilo-level cocaine dealer, so that's pretty high up there. He was involved in home invasions in Illinois. He ended up, task force was involved in arresting him at the same time we were executing a warrant at his house. This guy was ready to go. This is his bedroom. We found multiple firearms, so that was the pillow on his bed. So he had a pistol under that. That, by the way, is the nightstand in his room. That's the other side, so that's it's another firearm, and then under his bed, shotgun as well. So he ended up doing federal time for that particular case. Another instance in Fort Atkinson, you like to think people learn, but this same place we hit 3 times because they continually were selling drugs. And one of the search warrants, another firearm was recovered. Both received prison sentences. One of the individuals was a convicted felon. So Main Street in Jefferson, right across the street basically from the courthouse. This particular fella was selling methamphetamine. He was a convicted felon, and in this particular instance, one of the downstairs businesses called because they reported a strange odor coming from the apartment. They thought he was making meth up there. Turned out he wasn't, but when we executed the search warrant, there were 3 ounces of meth, which is again fairly significant dealer level. Most meth users or cocaine users are at the gram, very, very low level gram, like 1 gram, and they just use a little bit. But 28 grams in an ounce, this is a lot. So, and then again, convicted felon. So this same guy was then in the town of Oakland a few months later, and had a warrant because he didn't go to court. People where he was staying knew he was selling drugs. They called because they wanted to get him out of their place. And so we went, arrested him. We found some drugs during the initial search. This is methamphetamine. And then you can see the needles and the tie-offs. It's because he was injecting. But he also had a safe. And the residents there decided they were going to take his safe and his money while he's in jail, and they were using it. And then we ended up going back to get more, right? So no honor among dealers, right? So this is another one closer to the Waterloo area, Cherokee Path and Lake Mills. This is a gangbanger originally from Chicago, was in Madison, made his way to Lake Mills. We had information that there was a stash house there, processing house, and so we executed a search warrant. He happened to take up residence right on top of one of the Lake Mills PD officers' condos, and we ended up executing a search warrant. Again, this guy's a convicted felon, found a rifle. Other firearms were turned in prior to that, but then significant amount of methamphetamine, so 2.36 pounds, so that's kilo level. Estimated street value, $133,000. And he also, more troubling, was he was also making, we believe, trying to make fentanyl pills. So there was also about a pound and a half of a mixture of fentanyl and heroin and a couple other synthetic opiates. And he had a pill press at the place. and street value for that is $144,000. And just for kind of your information, a lethal dose of any fentanyl is in the hundreds of grams. So 0.02, 0.01 can be, grams can be potentially lethal. So very significant. So, and obviously that was getting broken up to be distributed. So this particular fellow was on parole for burglaries. When I was a general detective, I investigated him, and he went to prison because he was stealing guns and involved in some obviously bad stuff. We had information he was violating his parole, and ended up doing a search at his place. And again, we found a firearm. He was obviously packaging and dealing. Convicted felon. There's a little bit of marijuana there, LSD, and then in this case, we thought this was heroin originally, but it turned out to be MDMA, so, or Molly, methylene dioxymethamphetamine. So, another one in Lake Mills. So this is another guy that we were working with Dane County Narcotics Task Force. He was involved in an overdose death, and a confidential informant bought fentanyl and heroin and methamphetamine from him multiple times. He had a lengthy history involving weapons, so there was a concern. I'm part of the SWAT team, the team leader on our SWAT team, and so we planned the warrant for this particular place. And during the search, firearm, again, behind this washing machine, there it is. There's his stash there. And so, just to give you an example, so 243 grams of fentanyl, that's about 8.5 ounces, give or take. Significant amount, and obviously he's again a convicted felon. One of his cohorts in Madison also had a full auto pistol with a full auto switch, obviously illegal, so dangerous people. So this is another example of more recent vehicle crash. I mentioned we investigate or will investigate OWIs. This particular guy was coming back. He had gone to Milwaukee picking up some drugs and ended up, thank God he didn't kill these kids, crossed the center line up in Ixonia, head-on collision with this other vehicle. They were okay, nobody was injured, thank God everybody's wearing their seatbelts. When the deputies got on scene, they reported he was dazed and out of it. So they transported him to the hospital for evaluation. We knew the guy, the minute we read through and saw the name, we knew who he was. This box was reported in the debris field the next morning. Had 106 baggies of cocaine in it. DNA linked the box to the suspect. And he also was operating under the influence. He had restricted controlled substances in his book. And on this particular guy, after this you'd think he learned, but he hasn't. He's back at it. Charges on this guy are pending. So this is a Fort Atkinson case, fairly recent. Been dealing with this guy quite a bit. He since moved, but this particular occasion, confidential informants bought drugs from him, and then we did a search warrant and found 3 ounces of methamphetamine, again, dealer level. And it was, this was one of those challenging ones because this particular guy kept on getting out on signature bonds, and the neighbors were really getting upset. It created a lot of challenges, but he subsequently moved out of the city of Fort Atkinson, is now causing problems in another neighborhood. So, here's another case closer to Waterloo. So this particular person, another Chicago ties, probably a gang member. They won't necessarily admit that, but in this particular occasion, sold a lot of cocaine to an undercover informant, and he was a convicted felon. We ended up doing a search warrant at this particular location. Found a significant amount of cocaine, just under a pound. He had a firearm, and again, $25,000 in cash. And so what you can see there, this is a picture of the safe where he had it, and he was at least nice enough to keep everything all together for us. So the cocaine, the firearm, and all the cash, oh, and a couple IDs that he had that came back to him were in the safe, so that was at least nice of him. So each one of those baggies is about an ounce of cocaine, so. There's his, oh, that's his scale too, so, lots of white residue there. And then there's the cash. Waterloo, like I said, we had investigated several overdoses up here. Unfortunately, a lot of times they're challenging, because we can't get the information we need. This particular case, we had a confidential informant who bought cocaine from this particular guy multiple times. Reports of him growing marijuana in the backyard. We do a search warrant, and we find cocaine, marijuana, psilocybin mushrooms, DMT, and evidence of drug dealing. So these are the baggies with corners cut off or torn off, and then some mushrooms. There's a scale, and there's his marijuana in the backyard. So charges on this particular guy are going through now.
Yeah, well hidden.
No, yeah, right, I mean,
Night.
I know, yeah. It wasn't very difficult, right, to find. So, and then, so this one, these are a couple of the more recent ones that we did. I can't talk too much about, well, at least the next one. This one I can give you a little bit of information, more information on. But this particular case resulted from coordination with the Walworth County Drug Task Force. We were going after a couple street level dealers, and a couple of my team have been kind of coordinating because we know there's several Mexican drug cartels or people linked to Mexican drug cartels in Jefferson County and around Jefferson County. So we think that this particular case is tied to one of the drug cartels operating in our area. But so we did a search warrant based on street level dealing and from a couple, this particular source. We ended up then with a vehicle that was associated with this particular crew, locating 8.5 kilos of cocaine, so lots. So street value about $212,000. And investigations ongoing. So this is just another example. Packaging material is in the box, and so needless to say, so that's a lot. And then lastly, I'll go over this one pretty quick, but you can see those are all kilos of cocaine in white. This was an operation that was coordinated with us, Walworth County Drug Task Force and the DEA. And this particular seizure, this was cocaine, maybe fentanyl in it, we're not 100% sure. One of the field tests tested positive for fentanyl, but so I can't get into too much detail other than say this happened right on the border between Jefferson County and Walworth County. And it's the largest single seizure probably in the state of Wisconsin. So the value, in excess of 100 kilos of cocaine, and the street level value is between $2 and $9 million. So, and so this was like a location. So, so we do have a lot of problems, and like I said before, the perception is that there's no cops out here, and that's why people are coming to this area, right? Because they think they can get away with it. So part of this presentation is just kind of to show you what we've done and what's really going on. Again, a lot of this we can't talk about. You know, we haven't put out a press release yet on some of these big seizures because there's still other things that are happening. So, but that's part of the reason for being here. Support is really important for the task force and to keep it going, because without everybody's membership, it becomes more difficult. So, and the nature of the drug investigations, a lot of collateral crimes occur because of the drug problem, right? Burglaries, thefts, sexual assaults. And so with that, if we can take care of some of that, helps on the other end. And developing the skills that the team, as I talked about, that they develop by doing these investigations, really benefits them throughout their career. The relationships they build, even with people that, you know, might be considered unsavory, you'd be surprised what kind of information you can get when you build a relationship with some of the folks. So, and solves a lot of other crimes. So, and the other thing, just to mention, you know, we're available to respond 24/7. You know, so I'll give you my number. My numbers are up here at the end, but that's another reason, you know, local support is important, because if we don't have part-timers, we're going in, and then it creates overtime. So when you see some of the bills like you do for the overtime, it's probably because of that. So, and then the lastly, you know, support your local departments and your officers, because as we, you know, I already said I've got 5 to 6 years left, but as we start going through, we gotta build up the next generation, and it's challenging, because the climate that's out there, the anti-police climate, we're not getting the same amount of people that we were getting once before, and which becomes a challenge. Not just, you know, for us as agencies, but just general public, because the service is not gonna be there, or it's not gonna be the same as what you got before, which is challenging, and so, that's all I got. I appreciate your time. Do you guys have any questions?
How long has Waterloo been a part of the task force?
My understanding is it's been, did you say about at least 10 plus years? Because it's been since,
More than that.
Longer?
We've been with it probably 25.
25.
That long? Okay.
Yeah, so I've been there 23 years. I don't know before, how long before my time, but,
I was on the task force for 10 years.
okay, well then, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sadly, there's one Waterloo, one missing from that chart that we had. That's, thankfully, they're gone. So I think you guys might have been a part of that one too, downtown here.
oh, yeah. I didn't put that on. I put pretty much everything since I took over, so I
Oh,
think that
okay.
predated.
It might have, that was
Predated
probably 4 or
me.
5, maybe years ago. I'm not sure. I don't even know if
What's
that
it,
one.
do you remember a first name?
I don't know the names, but
Okay.
it's just right here on,
Yep,
on
yep,
West Madison.
Yep, and I know who you're talking about.
Right
so.
downtown, so
Yep.
the fact that they don't care, I mean, City Hall's right
Right.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
Bold.
Yeah, very bold. So do they honestly think that we are lacking police officers in Jefferson County? I really don't know the numbers, I just know we always have a hard time getting people, that the academy is lower and all that good stuff, but we've never defunded our police here.
Yeah, so I think they do, because they don't see the numbers that you see in Madison.
Okay.
And so just by raw numbers, they're not patrolled as often, or the areas aren't patrolled as often, and so, yeah, that's the perception, so,
I think it's easier here, interesting.
yeah, and they make more money, because people here will pay more than they will in Madison or Milwaukee to get certain drugs.
Sure, more competition there. than
So-
here, yeah.
Yeah, and they wear out their welcome, so it's, they say easier, so,
Interesting.
yeah. But I appreciate your time.
I thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
I appreciate
This
it.
was like NCIS all wrapped up.
Yeah, right, in 20 minutes.
Right.
And
I liked it.
commercials either, right?
I appreciate that.
I liked it.
But my number's up there, so if you ever have any questions or information, please feel free to call me. You can text me at the cell number as well. And I'd be happy to answer your questions, or if you have information, so. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. Stay safe and all that good stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah. All right, so thank you very much for that. All right, meeting summary, since last council, special finance with the fire department, Tim?
That was just a special closed session meeting with the fire department to discuss personnel.
Thank you. CDA, 116. Charlie, you want to take that?
We had a presentation on downtown bid districts. It was very informative. It was a very warm meeting because the temperature was up here.
Just like tonight.
Just
But
like
it
tonight.
was a
It
good
is
meeting.
up here tonight,
We got
too.
a lot of good information and discussion.
Yeah, CDA is looking into that. It was a presentation from the UW Extension. It was very informative. Finance and personnel tonight, Ken?
Tonight was a very short meeting, and we discussed funding for the park vehicle, and we're gonna be developing a policy on the usage of the city vehicle used by the parks and city personnel.
Wonderful, thank you. Consent agenda items are in your packet. If there are any questions or just requires approval.
Austin Cool make a motion to approve consent agenda items.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Austin Cool, second by Cummings to approve the consent agenda items. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recommendations of boards, committees, and commissions. We have water and light. We have a resolution 2024-02 in front of you for the issuance and sale of $4,355,649. Tim, you want to take that?
I'm gonna punt to Barry.
There we go. Barry's up.
Okay, this is for funding for the wastewater treatment plant yet. When we originally set the number, we thought it was gonna come in around $21 million, the engineer did. That's what the USDA loan and stuff was supposed to cover. And back when we accepted the bids were closer to 26 million. So we knew we were gonna need additional funding for that, and the additional funding is coming to the Clean Water Fund loan to the state. And that was $6 million, and $2 million of that is principal forgiveness. So it's their way of grant when you go through the state. We knew that at the start of the project, we're just catching up now when we need to use that, so.
Okay. All right, anybody have any questions? The terminologies and stuff? Do we have, is this it then, or do we have more loans to take out? Will this be the last?
I'm hoping this is it, but I'm not gonna
Right,
tell you
can't
how
guarantee.
2 years down the road is gonna fare, so.
Yeah. All right.
It's a long, big project.
Yes.
Drove by there tonight.
Charles Cole motion to accept the resolution 2024-02.
Austin Cool second.
Motion by Charlie and second by Austin Cool to approve resolution 2024-02. Roll call.
Cummings, yes.
Austin Cool, yes.
Charles Cole, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Thomas, yes.
Wait, yes.
Asla, yes.
Motion carried. Finance, insurance, and personnel, December 2023 financial statements, Tim?
Thomas, make a motion to approve the December 2023 financial statements. Payroll in the amount of $107,936.04. General disbursements in the amount of $324,096.60. And the clerk treasurer's report, which is on file in City Hall.
Cummings will second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Cummings to approve the December financials in the amount stated. Roll call.
Cummings, yes.
Austin Cool, yes.
Charles Cole, yes.
Griffin, yes.
Thomas, yes.
Wait, yes.
Asla, yes.
Motion carried. Radio for Parks vehicle, Tim?
This was discussed at the Finance Committee. Parks Department has found funding to purchase the radio, so no action is necessary.
So it's tabled.
No action is
Right,
necessary.
right. So the next one is funding Parks vehicle, is that the same?
If no funding of the Parks vehicle, there will be a resolution in a future meeting moving the funding that is currently in City Hall to the Parks Department.
A budget amendment, yeah.
Budget amendment.
All right, so that's FYI. All right, new business. So we received an email from the library. Brian Henning has asked to be replaced from his position on the board. He said after 9 years, he decided to take a step down from the library. he has appointed, which he has the right to do, Leslie Fugate as the school representative, and she will be the great addition to the group. She has held this role before in her previous community and understands all things library, and you thank the library for all their hard work. So Leslie does work at the school, she's a library media specialist, and she is welcomed by the board, so this is just approval, and I want to thank Brian Henning for all of his help. So it does require approval.
Where will move to approve Leslie Fugate to the library board to fill Brian Henning's vacated position?
Cummings will second.
Motion by Wyatt, second by Cummings to approve Leslie Fugate to the library board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And just so you know, I do read your minutes, Barry. Thank you for putting the time.
What's that?
I said I do read your minutes, so thank you for putting the time on there. Appreciate it. All right, anybody else have any agenda items, announcements?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Austin Cool, second.
The Cools, motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Wonderful evening, everyone.
That was informative.
I love that.
Yeah.
Seriously,
It's
this was like
crazy.
watching a CIS.
It's crazy to see.